If hard work alone created wealth, this generation would already be rich. But instead, they're exhausted. Not because they're lazy, not because they lack ambition, but because they were given rules that no longer work, and nobody warned them. Gen Z wakes up early. They commute longer. They juggle multiple incomes. They learn skills online that previous generations never touched. And still, money feels tight. Still, anxiety follows every bill. Still, the future feels uncertain, even when they're doing everything right. That confusion doesn't come from failure. It comes from contradiction, because you were told one thing, and reality keeps proving another. You were told, work hard and you'll be rewarded. Stay consistent and things will improve. Be patient, your time will come. But patience without clarity slowly turns into frustration, and effort without direction quietly turns into burnout. Here's the part most people are afraid to say out loud. The system didn't collapse, it evolved, and most people didn't evolve with it. So now we have a generation working harder than ever, inside an economy that rewards ownership, leverage, and visibility, not effort. That's why it feels like running on a treadmill. You're moving, you're sweating, but you're not actually going anywhere. And when that realization hits, it hurts, because it forces a dangerous question. What if the problem isn't my discipline, but the strategy I inherited? That question is uncomfortable, but it's also powerful, because the moment you stop blaming yourself, you start seeing the real issue clearly. You don't need more motivation. You don't need another hustle quote. You don't need to work harder just to prove something. You need understanding. You need to know why effort feels heavier now, why money doesn't stretch the way it used to, and why playing by old rules in a new world leads to quiet disappointment. This video isn't here to hype you up. It's here to wake you up, because once you see what's really happening, you can't unsee it, and that's when everything begins to change. Hustle culture didn't start as a lie. It started as hope. Work harder, stay disciplined, outwork everyone else, and eventually you'll win. For a while, that idea made sense. It gave people purpose. It gave direction to ambition, but somewhere along the way, the message changed. Hard work stopped being a tool and became an identity. Now exhaustion is worn like a badge of honor. Burnout is normalized. Rest feels like weakness, and anyone who questions the grind is labeled lazy. But here's what hustle culture never explains. Being busy is not the same as making progress. You can fill every hour of your day and still be moving in circles. You can sacrifice weekends, sleep, and peace, and still be financially stuck. That's not discipline. That's misdirection. The truth is, hustle culture benefits the system more than the individual. It keeps people productive, but not powerful. It trains you to trade time for money without ever asking if that trade makes sense long-term. Because if you stop to question it, the entire story starts to fall apart. You begin to notice something uncomfortable. The people who talk the most about grinding are rarely the ones who control their time. The people who are truly free aren't posting motivational quotes every morning. They're building quietly. They're thinking long-term. They're designing systems that don't collapse when they rest. And that's where the lie gets exposed. Hustle culture says, work more hours. Reality says, build more value. Hustle culture says, push harder. Reality says, position yourself better. The grind keeps you busy. Value sets you free. And this is where Gen Z feels the disconnect most clearly. You were told that effort equals reward, but the economy rewards leverage, skills, and ownership, not exhaustion. So the more you hustle without direction, the more tired you become, and the less progress you see. That's not because you're failing. It's because you're playing a game that was never designed to reward endless effort. And once you understand that, the question changes. It's no longer, how do I work harder? It becomes, how do I stop wasting effort on the wrong strategy? That's the moment real thinking begins. This is where most people get confused. They believe effort and value are the same thing. They're not. Effort is what you put in. Value is what the world is willing to reward. You can put in massive effort and still create very little value. And you can create massive value with far less visible effort. That's not unfair. It's just how the world works. Think about it. A person working 12 hours a day doing repetitive tasks will always be limited by time. But someone who spends years mastering a skill, solving a specific problem, or building a system can create results long after the effort stops. This is the part nobody explains early enough. Money follows usefulness, not sacrifice. The market doesn't ask how tired you are. It doesn't reward loyalty. It doesn't care how long you stayed late. It rewards impact. That's why two people can work equally hard and live completely different lives. One is paid for presence, the other is paid for results. And here's where Gen Z feels the tension. You were raised to believe that effort should automatically be recognized, that if you do your best, something good will happen. But the real question has always been, what are you doing that fewer people can do and more people need? That's where value lives. Value isn't about being busy, it's about being useful in a specific way. And once you understand this, you stop chasing motivation and start building leverage. You stop asking, how do I work harder? And start asking, how do I make myself harder to replace? That shift is uncomfortable because it forces honesty. It forces you to admit that effort alone is not a strategy, and that some forms of work, no matter how exhausting, will never lead to freedom. But it's also empowering, because once you understand value, you realize something important. You're not trapped. You're just under-leveraged, and leverage can be learned. Here's a truth that rarely gets discussed. Money doesn't respond to effort first. It responds to identity. Not the version of yourself you hope to become, but the one you consistently act from right now. If you see yourself as someone just trying to survive, your decisions will always be small, safe, and short-term. You'll choose certainty over growth, comfort over learning, familiar struggle over unfamiliar progress, not because you're weak, but because your identity is trying to protect you. Most people think their money problems are external. Low pay, high costs, bad timing. But underneath all of that is a quieter issue. They don't see themselves as builders. They see themselves as workers, as employees of life, as people waiting for permission. And the moment you adopt that identity, you give your power away. Builders think differently. They don't ask, how do I get paid more for my time? They ask, how do I make my time less necessary? Builders don't panic at slow months. They plan for them. Builders don't chase every opportunity. They commit to one direction long enough for it to compound. And here's the part that's uncomfortable to admit. No one becomes a builder accidentally. It requires letting go of an old story. The story where you're always reacting, always catching up, always hoping someone notices your effort. That story feels safe, but it keeps you stuck. The moment you begin shifting your identity, from worker to owner, from consumer to creator, from survivor to steward, your choices start to change. You start investing in skills instead of distractions. You start thinking in years instead of weeks. You start saying no to things that drain you, even if they look productive. This isn't arrogance, it's alignment. And alignment brings clarity. You don't need to become someone else overnight. You don't need to fake confidence. You just need to start acting in agreement with the future you say you want. Because money doesn't grow where identity is confused. It grows where responsibility is accepted. And once that clicks, you stop asking for motivation. You start moving with intention. Now let's ground this. Because clarity without action is just theory. You don't need to reinvent your life overnight. You don't need 10 income streams. You don't need to quit everything tomorrow. What you need is focus. Here's the first shift. Stop spreading your energy across too many directions. Scattered effort feels productive, but it rarely produces results. Choose one skill, one problem, one lane, something people already pay for, something you can improve at weekly, something that compounds over time. That might be a technical skill, a creative skill, a communication skill, a problem-solving role. The category matters less than the commitment. Second shift, stop consuming more than you create. Endless information feels like progress, but creation is where clarity forms. Instead of watching 5 videos, apply one idea. Instead of planning endlessly, build something small and imperfect. Momentum is born from movement, not motivation. Third shift, design your weeks intentionally. Most people live reactively. They answer messages. They respond to pressure. They let urgency control their time. But builders plan before emotion enters. They protect learning time. They schedule deep work. They treat their energy like a resource, not an afterthought. And finally, this matters. Detach your worth from your current income. Your income is a snapshot, not a verdict. It reflects past decisions, not future potential. If you tie your identity to where you are now, you'll sabotage where you could go next. Growth requires patience, and patience grows when you trust the process you're building. You don't escape the system by running faster inside it. You escape by building something of your own, piece by piece, quietly, intentionally, with clarity. There comes a moment in every real transformation when motivation stops mattering, not because motivation is bad, but because responsibility is stronger. This is the moment most people avoid. The moment you stop blaming the economy, stop blaming the system, stop blaming circumstances, not because those things don't exist, but because they can't be allowed to control you. Ownership is uncomfortable. It means admitting that even though the rules were unfair, you still get to decide how you respond. It means accepting that no one is coming to rescue you, and realizing that this is not a tragedy, it's freedom. Because when you own your direction, you stop waiting for permission. You begin to act with intention instead of emotion. You stop chasing validation. You stop explaining your goals to people who can't see them. This is where faith becomes practical, not emotional, not performative, practical. Faith becomes trusting the process even when progress is invisible. It becomes obedience to consistency when results are delayed. It becomes believing that stewardship matters more than speed. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this preparing me for?" That question changes everything. Because once responsibility is accepted, power returns. And when power returns, so does clarity. Here's what most people don't realize. Feeling lost is often the first sign of alignment. It means the old way no longer fits, but the new way hasn't fully formed yet. That space feels uncomfortable, lonely, uncertain, but it's not emptiness. It's transition. You're not behind because you haven't figured everything out. You're early because you're questioning what no longer works. Most people never reach this point. They stay busy, they stay distracted, they stay numb by routine, but you didn't, and that matters. The pressure you feel isn't a sign you're failing. It's a sign you're being stretched, not to break, but to expand. So if your life feels slower than you expected, if your progress feels quieter than others online, if your journey feels less glamorous than promised, take a breath. Growth doesn't announce itself loudly. It happens in silence. One decision at a time, one disciplined choice after another. You are not late. You are not behind. You're standing at the edge of something new. And the only thing required now is the courage to keep going without immediate reassurance. That's not weakness. That's maturity. There is a moment that never goes viral. No announcement, no applause, no dramatic soundtrack. It's the moment when you decide, quietly, that your life will no longer be driven by drift, not hype, not trends, not pressure from timelines that were never designed for you. This is the moment where alignment replaces urgency. Most people wait for certainty before they move, but certainty is a reward, not a prerequisite. The people who actually change their lives don't feel ready. They feel committed to showing up when motivation fades, committed to discipline when excitement disappears, committed to growth that no one claps for yet. This is where faith stops being a feeling and becomes a framework. Faith becomes waking up and doing the work anyway. Faith becomes managing what you have instead of obsessing over what you lack. Faith becomes understanding that obedience often looks boring before it looks blessed. You don't need a breakthrough season, you need a grounded one. A season where your habits catch up with your prayers, where your structure supports your vision, where your private discipline exceeds your public declarations. And here's the truth few will tell you. The algorithm didn't ignore you. Life didn't forget you. God didn't skip your name. You're being trained to lead without validation, to build without applause, to stand firm without external confirmation. Because if everything came quickly, it would collapse just as fast. Depth takes time, stability takes repetition, authority takes pressure. So if this message found you when you're questioning, when you're tired of noise, when you're ready for something real, that's not coincidence. That's timing. This channel exists for people who are done with surface-level motivation, done with recycled promises, done with hype that fades by Monday. We build clarity here, discipline here, faith with structure, purpose with action. Not because it's easy, but because it works. If you stay, you won't always feel inspired, but you will become grounded, focused, aligned, and over time, unstoppable. So take the step most people avoid. Subscribe, not for entertainment, but for consistency. Because the version of you that's coming doesn't need more noise. They need reinforcement. And this is where that journey continues.